Coming up, significant change is expected soon in the labor sector. And later on in sports, amateur boxers take the spotlight. The Bahamas Tonight, the weekend edition, starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Every Day.
Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Kendino Knowles, and welcome to the weekend edition of The Bahamas Tonight. Well, the Ministry of Labor is changing the conditions under which work permits are issued. Starting immediately, work permits will no longer be given to business owners unless there is a Bahamian identified to take the place of the permit holder. This is among a list of sweeping changes announced by Labor Minister, the Honorable Shane Gibson. Shanique Miller reports tonight on the effects of the new changes.
It's a practice that's decades old, business owners receiving work permits with the promise of having a Bahamian shadow the foreign worker holding the permit. But it seldom, if ever, happens. Labor Minister Shane Gibson says that will be a thing of the past.
The Department of Labor, in collaboration with the Department of Immigration, has revamped the process for notice for vacancy for labor certificates. And I am confident, Mr. Speaker, that no work permit will be issued unless the Department of Labor and Immigration are certain that a Bahamian is given an opportunity to fill the position. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, in the event a work permit is issued, the government has put a system in place whereby a Bahamian is identified as an understudy and a training program is implemented and monitored by the Inspectorate Unit. And my ministry is reviewing the fee schedule and payment structure for the labor certificates with a view of increasing revenue for the government, because those fees have not increased for some time. But Mr. Speaker,
workers' rights and the protection of workers also to be beefed up through the establishment of an inspectorate unit. Gibson says the new inspectorate unit is to ensure that all statutes related to employment are adhered to by employers. In recent months, the government has rolled out many heads of agreement detailing an upcoming project. Those HOAs often have included promises to assist with the upgrade of public infrastructure or training. However, it appears the investor doesn't always deliver on the agreed-to promises, and it's been happening for years. They get away with it because there's no one monitoring what happens. Well, that won't be allowed to continue as of now.
This is very important because we have heads of agreement that are signed all the time. But the problem we have is nobody actually monitors these heads of agreement to ensure that the commitments made by the developers are actually carried out. And so in many instances we found out that developers themselves took advantage of the fact that we didn't have any unit in the government monitoring to make sure if they promise to and commit to X amount of training and invest X amount of training, they have to do it. If they promise to have the foreign workers leave the job by X date and have it fully Bahamianized, in most cases they fail to do it. And so we now monitor that very closely to make sure at the end of the day that we get all we're supposed to get out of these heads agreement, not only look at getting everything up front. We want everything in the middle and the back end, which we're supposed to get as well.
Minimum wage to be tackled as well. Minister Gibson hopes to soon level the playing field when it comes to minimum wage. As it now stands, minimum wage is $175 in the private sector and $210 in the public sector. However, Gibson hopes to bring minimum wage payment in both sectors at the same level. Shanique Miller, ZNS Network News.
Well, the offices in which the Industrial Tribunal is being housed getting a speedy facelift. Work Minister, Deputy Prime Minister the Honorable Philip Davis, as well as Attorney General Senator the Honorable Alison Maynard Gibson toured the Safari Square facility recently. The contractors told ZNS News that the bulk of the renovations took less than 21 days. The Deputy Prime Minister thanked the Bahamian contractors and design team for constructing a space that is befitting of the Industrial Tribunal.
The quarters that they were in, they have overgrown, as they have outgrown many years ago. It's cramped, and it's really was in a place that was not suitable for a judicial venue, and hence the urgency of having them here.
Now, the courts, we're told, will open sometime this month. Staff at the tribunal say the renovations were long overdue. A senior staffer thanked government for moving quickly to enhance the tribunal environment, which is said to be more conducive for the work that it does. Meantime, the AG said the improvements are pure proof of government's commitment to strengthening the judicial system.
I know that when people come here, they will be satisfied that they can be heard and that they can feel comfortable and respected. I also want to thank the president of the Industrial Tribunal, Mr. Harry Lockhart, who for over a decade has been almost like a lone voice in the wilderness, crying out for appropriate surroundings and an appropriate court to demonstrate how seriously we take these matters.
Well, you might not have known that there now exists a Data Protection Commission which is tasked with protecting your personal information. It was established through the Data Protection Act 2003. Well, the commission is about to embark on an intense public relations campaign to help educate the wider public on its rights to privacy under the law. We spoke with Data Protection Commissioner Shari Farrington-Austin at a recent educational forum for members of the press, where she not only talked about an individual's right to privacy, but also the DPC's wide investigative powers if that right is violated.
Our investigation, quite frankly, can be very extensive. Under Section 15, if you read that act, you see that we have broad powers under investigative powers under Section 15, but I would like to point out that we are able to cause an investigation to happen as well as we may investigate. That means that we may go to the police and have them do their investigation of an incident, and once that report is given back to us, it does not mean that we are bound by what the police have found. We would look at it and we can come with an independent finding outside of what the police has found.
Now, this new thrust by the DPC ironically comes as we've seen the personal information of a senior government employee being aired in the press. And if you or anyone willingly disseminates or posts the personal information of another in a public domain like the World Wide Web, particularly on Facebook or any other social media outlet, you could be subject on summary conviction to a fine not exceeding $2,000, or on conviction on information to a fine of up to $100,000. We learned this past week that the DPC is monitoring Bahamian Facebook accounts for any violations.
I do not want to say on a daily basis. Of course, we're limited by human resource that's available to us, but we do go through Facebook pages. We do check on Facebook. You'll see a more proactive data protection commissioner as we rise to the challenge of dealing with the many data protection issues out there.
An American Airlines flight on the way to the Bahamas had to turn around and head back to Miami yesterday due to the smell of smoke in the cabin. A spokesperson for American Airlines told the Miami Herald newspaper that Flight 3589 left Miami just after 8 a.m. Saturday with 29 people on board, including 3 crew members. The plane landed again safely just after 8:30 a.m. at Miami International Airport. While the smell of smoke was reported in the cabin, we are told that it was not visible to crew members. No injuries were reported. Meantime, police here in the capital are investigating how a diving exercise went wrong on Saturday. Police say the incident happened after 2 p.m. when the victim was on a diving expedition along with his wife and several other persons in waters off Stewart Cove in the South Ocean area when he allegedly drowned. The victim was transported to hospital and later pronounced dead. Investigations continue. And still on crime news, a 48-year-old man of Bay Street, Massac Point, Andros is now in police custody for possession of dangerous drugs. Drug Enforcement Unit officers made the arrest while conducting an operation that targeted persons suspected of being involved in the drug trade. Authorities confirmed the suspect will appear in court early this week to answer to drug-related charges. Well, members of the National Drug Council attending a special church service over at Zion Baptist Church on Shirley and East Streets this morning. Council Representative Joseph Darville declared that the National Drug Council opposes the legalization of drugs in the Bahamas. This as the Jamaican government has reported that it plans to follow the United States and make the use of marijuana a legal practice. Well, Darville says doing so will only increase the social ills many young people face today.
we all need to be mindful of the fact that we have to the north of us and we have to the south of us, and we are caught in the middle of a tremendous surge in the drug trade now. When marijuana is now being legalized in many of the states in the United States and also in the South in Jamaica, and we're even talking about probably medical marijuana in the Bahamas, which I'm totally opposed to. We have many other ways of bringing medical relief to our citizens.
When the weekend edition continues, activities commemorating Heart Month come to an end. We've got details after this short break.